All right, so we're starting chapter 8 today, monomials and factoring. If you look in your textbook, it's on page 420. That is the beginning of this section, this chapter, rather. So it's 8.1, monomials and factoring. So monomials and factoring. The way that the book breaks it down is to start with prime factorization, which all of us know how to do. It's actually a rather useful tool for finding out what the parts are in any given number. Remember, we have prime and composite numbers. Prime number only has, it's any whole number greater than 1, which only has the factors 1 and itself. So only factors 1 and itself. And then composite would then be a number that has more than 2 factors. All right. We've done a lot of factoring through time. A lot of you guys, you remembered how the factors worked whenever we were discussing them before. We will end up dealing with some prime factorization that can give us the fastest way to find the greatest common factor, which we'll need to find. So factored form is something that we're going to talk about too. So factored form, just another definition to know. It's whenever it's expressed as a product of prime numbers and variables. So say expressed product. And an important thing to note for a complete factored form, no variable or number has a power greater than 1 for factored form. Now, we don't use factored form often, but it is important to be able to write it out that way. So no variable or number So an example, if you had something like -6 a squared b c to the cube, c to the cube, c cubed. If you took this and you wanted to find the factored form, you would have -1, 2, 3, or actually not commas, it would be you would use a dot for the product, times A times A times B times C times C times C. So none of them have an exponent greater than 1, but they are all necessary to create this. So does this make sense?
Can you do another example, please?
Yes, I'll do another example of this. All right, so to create the factored form, let's say, of 93xy squared. So 93 has only it has 3 factors technically. So you have 1, 3, and 31. Well, 1, 3, 31, 93. So for this factored form, you would write 3 times 31, keep doing that, times x times y times y. Oops, that 2 disappeared. Here we go. All right. Does this make sense? Let's view. If you want to type your questions into the chat, then that's fine. This should be pretty self-explanatory or basic considering what we've done in the past with factoring. All right, so given that, we are going to clear this whiteboard. I hope you guys have the definitions. If not, then you can go back and look at this video after I've posted it. All right, now to continue with this, we have the idea of GCF. Greatest common factor. And greatest common factor of 2 monomials is the product of their common factors when each monomial is written in factored form. So if you were to have doing common factors with 2 numbers is very simple. You guys did that throughout elementary school. Now we're going to be getting into doing the common factors when we have variables involved, which we did do a little bit of this in the last 2 calls that we did, but just wanted to make sure that we have a refresher on it. So let's say we have 36x squared y and 54x, no, not x squared, that's xy squared z. So we're going to write factored form for both of these and then match up all the numbers that are the same. So for 36x squared y, we have 2, 2, 3, 3, because that's 4 times 9 gives you 36, times x times y. And then 54, we have 2 times 3 times 3 times 3, because this would be 6 times 9, so you have the 2 times 3 here, and then 3 times 3 gives you 9. You could think of it differently too. You could think of it as 27 times 2, but both of these I just automatically think of nines. times x times y times z. All right, next step, we're going to circle the things that are shared. You have a 2 on both of them. You have 2 3s. Nope, that didn't work. 2 3s, 1x, and 1y. So given the information that we have, we know that our common factor is going to be 2 times 3 times 3 times x times y, which you multiply that out, you get 18 xy. And really, that's all that you guys are going to have to do for this section. This section is a lot of review, understanding, and remembering how to do GCF. This is the first step moving into factoring as far as polynomials. Just factoring monomials, it's going to seem super easy, but you need to be able to do this very quickly in order for you to get how to do the binomials, trinomials, any level of polynomial factoring, and then not just factoring once, but turning it into a product of 2 binomials, like the polynomial products that we did last chapter.